Hey everyone, it's Robbie. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about cash outs and when they're offered to you, what to do. Are they negative EV, positive EV, everything like that. How are they calculated? What do they mean? What to dive into them. I see it being a popular topic on gambling Twitter nowadays. Just as sportsbooks are promoting the 12 leg parlays that are somehow alive going into Sunday and Monday night football. I just wanted to go over it and, kind of help everyone understand my perspective on what to do and how to handle these situations. Before I get too far into anything, please subscribe, and share the channel. All of my content, I try to get out there for you guys. If there's anything you want to see, please feel free to email me. Put it in the comments. I check it fairly frequently. So if there's anything you want to see, please let me know. So getting into this today, at its core, a cash out offer is a sportsbook's offer to a customer to close out an active bet for a fixed amount. That's pretty clear. So obviously, when you accept the cash out offer, your bet is completed, and that's regardless of whether that bet ends up winning or losing. So if you have that last leg of your parlay going and you hit that cash out button, regardless of if that bet wins or loses, that's what you go home with. So in certain cases, it can save you. In certain cases, you might leave some money on the table, but you're taking that known outcome in that sense. So like I said, cash outs are most commonly discussed when you have those large parlays going and you put like a 12 leg parlay in or some crazy long shot bet that's still alive going into the last bet or the last leg, or late in that game. So obviously that's a big decision to make depending on the magnitude of your cash out. And we're going to talk about, kind of a decision tree analysis and when to do what and how to go about that, making that decision. In general, too, some sports books do offer like an equal value cash out, and mostly FanDuel and DraftKings, like right after you make a bet on most markets. Basically, just in case it was an accident or you change your mind, just like a quick, hey, I didn't mean to wager that $50 on the Eagles. I'm going to take that back. So some sports books do that. Other sports books like Barstool and Fox Bet do take a percentage. Barstool, I think, takes 5%. Fox Bet, it seems to vary depending on the odds of your wager. I haven't really figured out exactly what their methodology is yet, but they do take a decent chunk. So you don't have that luxury on Barstool and Fox Bet. I'm not as familiar with the cash outs on other ones, but I do know about those four pretty well. So you can close out the position still for the Barstool and Fox bet, but you would do that for a small loss. And then, if you make a bet for, next week's NFL games, we're talking, this is Saturday right here. So we're going to bet something for next Sunday, and we change our minds Tuesday, you might not get that same value depending on how the line moves. That's usually just a short-term thing. Mathematically speaking, cash outs are almost always negative EV. Books don't have an incentive to give you a positive value on that, meaning a better value than you could get than just hedging it. So almost always hedging your position out if you don't want to let that bet ride is going to be your best bet, but it's not always possible for a variety of reasons. So depending on what you're betting. So let's say you have like an anytime touchdown parlay, which I know is a pretty common thing for people to do. If you have that last leg going into Sunday night, and we have the Colts and 49ers on Sunday night this week. So let's say you have Jonathan Taylor to score. You're not as confident as you were. You have a huge payout. It's not really that easy to hedge that no, not to score a touchdown, right? As opposed to if you took the Colts spread or, the 49ers money line or something like that, right? So it's a bit more difficult in certain markets. And that's when a cash out could be more easily explored, and might be a better value than trying to take a high VIG, no to the no touchdown. So we're going to talk about how these cash out values are calculated. I'm going to keep them pretty easy examples, but you can apply this to other things, and your own bets, and how to navigate them when they're offered to you. So I'm going to give you guys a couple examples of bets that I recently made. So this Broncos Browns game I have here was for this past Thursday night game. I did place this $50 Broncos money line plus 146 bet right before Baker Mayfield was ruled out. So that line was moving all week. It started at 5.5 for the Browns, and gradually as players were ruled out, came down. Obviously the Browns ended up winning by 3. At this point, we know that, but as that line moves, your cash out value might differ. So you're seeing I'm being offered a $53.03 cash out for that $50 bet. So that would be a $3.03 profit. Basically, given where the line was at right then, especially for that dollar amount, if I wanted to close out that position and I didn't need the funds immediately, I could, based on this math right here, I could cash out, or I could hedge out for a locked in $4.42 or 43-cent win. Basically, the way you figure that out, you try to get to that same payout. So it's the same logic as arbing, middling, all of that stuff. A $68.58 wager on the Browns money line, which when I did this, the Browns were going off at minus 126. So basically that gets you to the $68.58 wager gets you to the same $123 payout, cent difference, but that's, close enough for these purposes. So that would lock that in. So you compare the $4.42 win to the $3.03 win, and obviously we'd rather the $4.42. I know that's a small scale, but just to easily explain how this is calculated. So FanDuel in this case is taking a percentage off, because they're not going to give you that equal value, right? That cash out, maybe you need the funds immediately, you want to put it in something else. It's not worth the extra $1.40 that you'd get by hedging it, so you just take it. Obviously, that's not a lot, but over time it could add up. So the second example I have here, I have I really like the Broncos this week. Clearly, I thought the line was going to move, which is why I did like them so much. Ultimately, they ended up winning, of course, but so the second one, we had the Broncos and the Bulls money line. So the Bulls opener against the Pistons, minus 174. That line moved as well, and the Broncos plus 146. So after the Bulls had won, we know that the Broncos the only leg left. So basically, we have the Broncos money line at plus 287, which you're not going to find anywhere. Obviously, that's a parlay odds that we're talking about. So to figure out what the hedge would be, same practice. You want to get to that same payout. So calculate that you need a $64.79 wager to win enough to get you to the $116.21 payout. Now I'm doing this to the cent just to be like perfectly tied out. Obviously, if you're doing this stuff, you want to calculate the cash out, sure. But in terms of in practice, and you want to perfectly hedge it out, like, you don't need to go to the cent like that all the time. But similarly, we can see that with the locked in profit, if I wanted to close out of my Broncos position here, I would be able to lock in a $21.42 win in either case with that $64.79 wager on the Browns money line. So as you see in the cash out offer, I'm only being offered $47.19, which is a $17.19 win or net profit over my wager. So FanDuel again is taking a decent percentage, but it's the immediate need of it, right? If I needed the $47 right now and I wanted to put it on something else, I could cash it and say, you know what, I have a better opportunity than trying to hedge for the remaining $4. So that's a consideration, but that's generally speaking how these cash outs are calculated. I think it's important to keep in mind, especially from like a positive negative EV perspective. So hedging, you're always going to be able to get more profit out of it, right? You're going to be able to lock in more, especially on large bets. It's going to make more of a difference in terms of, the actual dollars that you see. But again, there's certainly benefits to the cash out method as well. And, it depends on your situation. So in this next slide, we're going to see my thoughts on when to accept the cash out offer. So again, mathematically, as we just saw, the cash out, you do lose a little bit compared to hedging. But it doesn't mean profitable bettors don't ever take them. So again, like I said, if you need the funds, if you want to put it into something else, you see a good opportunity, another bet you like, arbing, middling, anything like that, you can definitely take that and put it in something else, right? If that's going to be a better bet for you than having those extra $4 to be able to lock something bigger in, it's definitely worth it. Obviously, that's very contextual and something that's difficult to walk through, but just thinking abstractly about it, right? That's something where it would make sense. And there's obviously always people that, you see on Twitter in the comments of like, FanDuel and DraftKings when they post like, oh my God, this person has this like 10,000 cash out offer. And everyone in the comments is saying, well, you shouldn't have put it in your parlay if you're just going to cash it out. Well, obviously, in an ideal world, sure. But when we're putting out those like $5, $10 to win 20 grand, 30 grand parlays that you see out there, and it's somehow still alive when you get to Sunday and Monday Night Football, you're not necessarily expecting that's just a fun bet that people are just putting out there for entertainment purposes. Like, oh, let's see if I can hit this. If you're expecting to win a 12 leg parlay, that's not like crazy juice. I mean, that's insane. So you're not expecting to win that bet is basically what I'm saying. So it's not a normal situation, and you're going to see a huge cash out offer. I mean, it's a lot of factors at play that could limit you from hedging. Whether you can actually put that amount down on a sports book. If you're limited, you might not be able to. You might not have access to the funds. So we're going to walk through a little decision tree really quickly. So basically, we're going to assume here that there's no way you're going to let this ride. It doesn't matter what the bet would be, how much you'd have to put out. You want to close out this position. So first off, is there a market that allows me to perfectly hedge this bet? So like I said with Jonathan Taylor as that example, if anytime touchdown parlay, if you can get a bet down on him to not score, then you can perfectly hedge out of that, right? Because there's only two outcomes. He either scores or he doesn't. It's not like well, he has to score, but in the first half, something like that. If it's a more niche market, it might be harder to cash out or hedge out of it. So a cash out might make more sense. If you don't have a perfect hedge available and you want to close out, your method is cashing out, even if that means taking a slight hit on an EB, right? If it's a big payout, it's still a big payout. It's a lot of profit at the end of the day. So let's assume that you can perfectly hedge it, right? Let's say you have the 49ers money line in the Sunday night game tomorrow night. Do I have the requisite funds to appropriately hedge this? Do I have, let's say, $10,000 to put down on the Colts? A, can I deposit that and put it in before this game happens? B, will a sportsbook let me bet that? C, like, am I comfortable doing that? So if any of those questions are answered no, you can just cash it out. Again, you're going to take a little bit of a hit, right? But in terms of what your profits would be, but in terms of peace of mind, you're going home with a $10,000 win, whatever. That's awesome. And a lot of people say they cash out and then they throw a couple grand or a certain percentage back on the team that they had bet to let it ride a little bit still. You could end up leaving money on the table in these situations, but in terms of your comfort and what you can practically do, there's vastly different things that could happen, right? You might not be able to do one of those things. You might not have $10,000 easily accessible to be able to load into a DraftKings, FanDuel, whatever, and make that bet within 2 hours. Like if you had, your 4 o'clock games hit, whatever, it might not make sense to do that. And obviously the last thing is, do I have enough time to place this bet? So if your last leg settled at 7:30 and this Sunday night game starts at 8:15 and you have to figure out all of the stuff in terms of what to bet on where, if you have to spread it across multiple books, depositing, all of that stuff and working through any potential limits, it might just be worth cashing out. If you're talking about the Monday night game or the Thursday night game or something unrelated that doesn't happen for a little bit of time, maybe a different story. But if it's the time sensitive thing, don't stress yourself out. You can just take the cash out and go home happy, right? Now, if the answer to all of these questions that I just went through is yes, hedge it because you will make more money doing it. But of course, that comes with having a lot of money tied up all at once. It does limit your opportunities. I've talked about in other videos where, you have an opportunity cost every time you make a bet, right? So if you throw down 10,000 on, you throw down everything else you have, you throw 10,000 on the Colts and that's your perfect hedge position, whatever. Any opportunities that come up during that time before those bets settle, you might not be able to take advantage of. So that's another consideration as well. Again, abstract thinking, but something to certainly consider, depending on your bankroll and what's reasonable for you as an individual. And lastly, throw an odds jam into this. If you're going to hedge it, make sure you shop for that best line. That makes such a difference. Obviously, when I showed you the FanDuel cash outs on the other sheet, that's based on FanDuel's lines. So if, let's say, I had the Browns at minus 126 there. If the Browns were minus 115 on, let's say, DraftKings, take it on DraftKings and you're going to make more. So same thing, like you want to make sure, again, using the same scenario with having the 49ers money line in a big parlay and trying to hedge with the Colts, you want to make sure you get the best Colts money line value out there, right? So if, I don't care what site you have them on, if you have, if you can get plus 200 on DraftKings, but your parlays on FanDuel where the Colts are plus 190, it's more bang for your buck getting the plus 200. So especially if you have to deposit funds and go through all of that, or you have the requisite funds already available, make sure you're doing it where you get the best value. And that said, throwing in a plug as well, middles are always fun in that situation. The thrill of being able to win both bets, especially if you have a pretty reasonable range of outcomes. I think the Colts are going at like plus 4.5 right now, having 49ers money line with Colts plus 4.5. 49ers by a field goal or 4 points is very reasonable. Even by 1 or 2, less common, but those key numbers, that can be a lot of fun, and that would be an insane win for you. And just at the small price of, maybe not having as big of a win, you'd still be able to lock in a pretty big win though if you had that big parlay going. And lastly, just to close out, if you have a life-changing amount, if 10K is life-changing to you, or you're getting offered 100K, that's whatever the number is, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what's life-changing to me. It matters what's life-changing to you. So if that's being offered to you, take it. Like, don't feel any shame. Don't feel any shame in going to Twitter and saying, I cashed this out, whatever. All the trolls, they're just jealous that they can't make that bet themselves, right? So if you have that being offered to you, there's absolutely no shame in taking it. That's probably going to be, a bet that you're going to remember and talk about in your betting communities. So if there's something life-changing being offered, I can't reiterate enough, but make sure you take that. So I'm going to leave it there for today, guys. If you have any questions, want any other feedback, want to see anything else, please let me know. Comment, like I said, email, anything like that. Thanks again for your support, guys. Appreciate it.